Hello dear learners, welcome back to my channel. In our previous video, we had seen an example of AOP using lower level Spring AOP API. Therein, we had created a class which implemented a method before advice interface, and it implemented the whole AOP example using the method before advice, right? In this particular video, we will be talking about XML schema based AOP implementation. In our previous video, we had seen that there are various implementations of AOP, that is the lower level Spring AOP APIs. This was the approach which we had seen as an example in our previous video. We had also seen there are schema based implementations and the AspectJ style implementations which are available. Our today's video is going to focus on schema based implementation, for which you can see these are the various tags which are available, which you can use to implement your different advices, that is before, after returning, after throwing, after, around, etc. Now along with these tags which are available, we would also need a Pointcut tag, to implement this particular example. In our video on AOP concepts, we had learned what are Pointcuts. If you haven't seen that video, you can check that video. Here I'll be sharing a link of AOP aspects and you can check out the various concepts of AOP. Now, for the schema based approach, the implementation is completely XML based implementation, where we use AOP tags and Pointcuts for the implementation. In this video, as I said earlier, we will be talking about Pointcut and Pointcut expressions in detail. So please make sure you're watching the video till end and understanding what are the various ways in which you can implement Pointcuts. Now, as far as Pointcuts are concerned, they are basically the exact points where we implement our advices. So we had learned two concepts there of join points and Pointcuts, wherein join points told us all possible places where I can implement my advice, whereas Pointcut is an exact location or your point of interest where you want your advice to execute. So this is that exact point where your advice will be executed. Correct. Now, as I have mentioned this in my previous videos also, that as far as Spring AOP is concerned, Spring AOP supports only method execution join points. That is, a particular join point or a particular advice can be executed only over the methods. There are other approaches also available, which we will explore when we talk about AspectJ implementation, but as far as Spring AOP is concerned, here only method level execution join points are allowed. Now, a Pointcut declaration has something called as a Pointcut expression, which determines exactly which method executions we are interested in. So on which particular class, in that particular class, in which particular method, or maybe it could be multiple methods also. That can be defined or you can say designed by a Pointcut designator. As you can see here, you will be using something called as an execution, which will help us in determining what all points do I want my code to execute or my advice to execute. So execution is nothing but it is a primary Pointcut designator and it is used for matching method execution join points. So here basically we will be defining a pattern in a way, which will help us or which will help Spring to determine at runtime what all join points. It will go and match it based on this pattern, and wherever the pattern matches, it will execute our advice. Whatever before advice, after advice, whatever sort of advice that you have defined, it will execute it at all those points which will match this particular pattern. Now in XML schema based implementation, a Pointcut is defined as follows. Like you will be having an AOP Pointcut tag, and it will have an ID. Also, it will have a expression. So this expression attribute is a very important attribute for us, because this is where we will be defining where exactly do I want this particular advice to execute. This is like the exact point. Now here in this example, as you can see, I'm saying I want this particular advice to or this particular aspect to execute at com.learning.model.car details method. You remember from our previous videos, we have a car details method. So I'm telling here using this particular expression that whatever advices that I'm defining here should execute over the car details method. Now this example that you're seeing is a very specific example wherein I'm very specifically telling that I want it only to execute on the car details method. Now this could be even more generic or more specific if you want it. So let's see what could be the other possible Pointcut expressions that we can have. Like as you can see here, this one will execute on any public method. Okay, so the advice that I will be defining here in this particular tag will execute on all public methods that I have. Okay, so that is how it is going to work. Okay, so I'm not defining any specific class here, any specific method here. I am in general saying this should execute on all public methods. Okay, now the second example that we have here is telling us that this particular advice should execute on all the methods that begin with the word set. So let's say all the setter methods that I have. Let's say set car details or set type or whatever. So any method that begins with set, this particular advice will execute on all those methods. So you can see here these are more generic examples. I can, with the help of this expression attribute, define expression in such a way that one particular advice can execute on multiple methods whenever they match. So whatever setter method, so let's say if I talk about this particular example, the set, every time I execute a set method, I don't need to separately tell here that go and execute this particular advice. Okay, it will automatically call that particular advice here because it is matching with the pattern. So that's the advantage, okay, of defining these Pointcut expressions. One more example, if we see here again, I am talking specific to a particular class, like I am saying com.xyz.service.account service .star. So what am I trying to tell here? Any method which is defined in the account service class, on that particular method you have to execute the advice. The advice could be before, after. That is the second thing that will determine that will be defined based on what kind of AOP tag that you've used. AOP before, AOP after, AOP throws advice. So whatever advice tag that you're using, that will determine where to execute that particular advice. But on which particular method to execute it will be defined by this Pointcut expression. Okay, so you can say in a way this is we are defining our target. Okay, you remember we had also spoken about target in our previous video. Please check out my previous video if you haven't seen that video. Okay, I'll share the link in the description box if you want. Anyways, I always share the link of my whole playlist, so you can check that out in the description box also. Okay. Going further, one more example is here I am now saying that any method which is defined in this particular package, com.xyz.service. So all classes which are there in this particular package, and all the methods in all those classes which are there in this particular package. So you can see how much flexible this is. It gives us so much flexibility to define where do I want my advice to execute. Okay, on which all targets do I want it to execute. That is what it will help us. So Pointcut expressions are really very flexible and they help us in implementing the whole code in a very flexible way. Okay, let's see one more example wherein now I am saying that not only service, but if there is any sub package of the service package, there also I want it to execute. So it says any method which is defined in the service package or its sub package. So all the classes which are in service or in its sub package, this particular advice will execute everywhere. Okay, so these are the various some of the examples that I'm showing here. You can take a minute, pause the video and check all these examples. In case if you have any questions, you are all free to comment below the video. Now my even community section has been enabled, so you can even write me there, or there are various other places also like my Telegram link, etc., where you can share your queries with me and I'll help you in resolving those queries, right? So take a minute, pause the video and check out these various expressions that I'm showing here. For example, so there could be various other combinations also that you can try and see how it works. But these are a few that I thought would be important for you to understand the whole work. Okay. Going further, seeing our example, our whole car example that we've used earlier, we will be defining something like this. We will need to have an AOP config tag, which is like a root tag for this whole AOP configuration that we want to do. Okay, so AOP config, as I said, is the rootmost tag that we'll have to define. Inside that, we'll have to define a tag AOP aspect, which will have an ID and it will have a ref. This ref is basically going to refer to our bean which defines our advice code. Okay, whatever aspect code that you want to execute, whichever class is writing that code, this is a reference to that bean. Okay, I'll show you that further. Then we need to define the AOP Pointcut tag, which has, as I said earlier, ID, and it will have an expression attribute wherein we'll be defining the exact expression which we want to define what place we want the code to execute. Okay, so here I have given the more specific one, com.learning.model.car details. Okay, so this is where it will execute. And which point do I want to execute? So I want to execute it before. So I'm saying AOP colon before Pointcut ref car service before method. So what exactly this whole thing means is that whatever code is written inside the before method that will execute before, okay, the car details method every time. So every time the car detail method gets called, this particular method will execute. So rather than AOP before, let's say if I would have said AOP after, it would have meant that this AOP after method which is defined should execute every time after the car details method. Now if this would have been more generic like car.star, we would have said, or it would have interpreted like the before method should execute on all the methods of the car class before the method executes. Okay, before any method of that particular car class executes. So that is how it means that two things, the Pointcut tag and the before tag, that is how they work together. The before tag tells you where to execute, okay, before, after, around, whatever, and the Pointcut tag tells you on what all do you want to execute it. Okay, so here I am saying car details. If you say star, it will execute on all the methods of the car. If you say model.star, it will execute on all the methods of all the classes of the model package. So that is how it is defined. Going further, we will also have to define our bean, of course, because the car class is our target. So that definitely we'll have to define. And we will also have to define our bean, okay, the advice bean, which is going to be the class which will contain that code which will execute. Okay, so this is the whole configuration that we have. We will need a config tag, which will have an aspect tag, which will further have two tags, that is Pointcut and before or after. So this could be anything. This could be before or after, as we had seen here in our previous example. Before, after returning, after throwing, after around. So it could be any one of this. Okay, it could be multiple also. Okay, so it is not necessary that I'll define only one here at a time, that is only AOP before. I can define multiple also. AOP before, AOP after, or AOP around. I can have all three of them here, and I can make all those three execute at this particular point. Okay, so this is where we are defining the point. That is very important. The point where this particular advices would execute. So that is it for today's video. In our next video, we will be seeing an actual example of this, of how this whole thing works. We will try different permutation combinations in that particular video, and we'll see how the whole code is syncing with each other and making it as one single unit and executing it. Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you. Bye-bye. Please like my videos if you like my content. I have been telling this over and over again. Please watch complete videos end to end. There are a lot of small details that I keep talking about in my videos, which I would not want you to miss. So please watch the videos completely, share it with your family and friends or whoever it is relevant to. And please subscribe to my channel if you've not subscribed. I have been talking about a lot of Spring concepts, in my previous videos. There are a lot of, other videos that are coming up. They are lined up and they'll be coming every week on Fridays. So please don't miss on those. And yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. That is it for today. Have a nice week ahead.